When investigators cataloged that bedroom, these were considered supporting details. The headline was the propofol, the demerol, the benzodiazepines. The skin creams were background, an afterthought in the toxicology reports. But to a dermatologist, this inventory is the opposite of background. It is a complete, sophisticated, medically literate depigmentation protocol. Each compound targets a specific step in the melanogenesis cascade we mapped in Episode 1. And when you understand what each one does and what it costs, the story of what Michael Jackson lived through for 30 years snaps into a different kind of focus entirely. Let's start with the nuclear option. Monobenzone, brand name Benacan, monobenzyl ether of hydroquinone. This is the only topical compound in dermatology that creates permanent, irreversible depigmentation, not fading, not lightening, erasure. The FDA's approved indication is precise and extremely narrow. Extensive vitiligo, where a patient makes the decision to permanently remove their remaining pigment to match the white patches, to create a uniform, if colorless, result. That is the only sanctioned use. Because once you use this, there is no going back. Most lightening agents are like turning the factory's lights off. Production slows, but the factory is still there. Monobenzone does something far more violent. It uses the factory's own machinery against it. The melanocyte absorbs monobenzone the same way it absorbs L-tyrosine, through normal cellular uptake. But when tyrosinase attempts to process it, the reaction generates highly reactive quinone intermediates, toxic free radicals that immediately begin causing oxidative damage throughout the cell. Lipid peroxidation, protein destruction. The cell cannot survive this assault. There is a second mechanism that is almost elegant in its destruction. The quinone byproducts bind to proteins on the melanocyte surface, flagging the cell as foreign to the immune system. The immune system then sends T lymphocytes to finish the job. In effect, monobenzone arms the body's own defenses to hunt down and destroy any surviving melanocytes. The result is permanent. The melanocytes are gone. No melanocytes, no melanin, no reversal. This is not a cosmetic decision. This is a dermatological procedure with lifetime consequences. And it was found, 18 tubes of it, in a bedroom, which tells us something very specific about the stage of the protocol that had been reached. The second compound, hydroquinone, 1,4-benzenidiol, the most widely prescribed skin lightening agent in dermatological medicine for 6 decades. In the U.S., 2% is over the counter. 4% requires a prescription. The tubes in that bedroom were almost certainly higher. Hydroquinone is a competitive inhibitor of tyrosinase, our gatekeeper enzyme. It competes with L-tyrosine for the enzyme's active site, jamming the very first step of the melanin production cascade. No tyrosine conversion means no L-dopa, no dopaquinone, no melanin. But hydroquinone is more sophisticated than simple competitive inhibition. It also inhibits DNA and RNA synthesis within the melanocyte, slows the formation of new melanosomes, and at higher concentrations begins to compromise melanocyte membrane integrity. Multiple attack points, multiple reasons why it has dominated the field for 60 years. The critical difference from monobenzone, with hydroquinone, the melanocytes survive. They're suppressed, not destroyed. Stop using it, and the factory restarts, which is precisely why patients often use it for years, which is precisely where the most serious complications begin. Chronic high-dose hydroquinone can trigger a condition called exogenous ochronosis, a paradoxical permanent bluish-black discoloration of the skin caused by metabolic byproducts accumulating in the dermis. The person who has been lightening their skin for years ends up with skin that is darker and more disfiguring than when they started. No cure, no reversal, the cruelest possible irony. Kojic acid, derived from fungal fermentation, found in sake and soy sauce fermentation processes, is the most mechanistically elegant of the tyrosinase inhibitors, because it doesn't compete with tyrosine at all. It attacks the enzyme itself. Tyrosinase requires copper ions at its active site to function. Copper is the engine of the catalytic process. Kojic acid is a copper chelator. It reaches into the enzyme's active site, grabs the copper atoms, and removes them. No copper, no catalysis. No catalysis, no melanin pathway. The machinery is physically dismantled. Recent pharmaceutical research has produced hybrid inhibitors combining kojic acid with hydroquinone-like compounds that deliver simultaneous copper chelation and competitive inhibition. some demonstrating up to 138-fold higher potency than kojic acid alone. The chemistry of melanin destruction is not standing still. Methanol, methoxyphenol, is almost always formulated with tretinoin, which most people know as retin A. The combination creates a two-front attack. Mequinol acts as another tyrosinase substrate inhibitor, and at higher concentrations begins to show cytotoxic effects on melanocytes similar to monobenzone, but milder and, usually, reversible. The tretinoin component accelerates epidermal turnover dramatically. The outer skin cells shed faster, physically removing existing pigmented cells, while the mequinol simultaneously reduces new melanin production. You are attacking from two directions. Remove existing pigment faster. Produce less new pigment simultaneously. The boxed warning on mequinol formulation specifically flags permanent depigmentation as a risk. The fifth element of the protocol is the one with no visible tube in the bedroom inventory, because it doesn't come in a tube. Intravenous glutathione. Glutathione is a tripeptide your body produces naturally: glutamine, cysteine, glycine, your master intracellular antioxidant. In the medical aesthetics world, high-dose IV glutathione has been used off-label as a systemic skin lightening agent. The mechanism is unlike any topical compound. At high systemic concentrations, glutathione reacts with dopaquinone, the critical branch point molecule in melanogenesis, incorporating a sulfur group that actively diverts the synthesis pathway away from eumelanin and toward pheomelanin. You are not blocking pigment production. You are changing the type of pigment being produced, dark to light, from the inside, in every melanocyte simultaneously. The combination: monobenzone destroying melanocytes, hydroquinone suppressing tyrosinase, kojic acid chelating the enzymes copper, mequinol and tretinoin accelerating cell turnover, and IV glutathione shifting melanin type systemically. This is what dermatologists call a multimodal approach. In the context of a legitimate vitiligo protocol with medical supervision, it is aggressive but defensible. Without that supervision, without that diagnosis, it is extraordinarily dangerous. Next week, we go somewhere darker still, a compound that was in use decades before any of these. A compound so toxic it was banned by the FDA in 1973. And that is still being used today. Learn more about the story of Michael Jackson and other clinical medical cases on unbedsidemanners.com.